demolition of the east wing of the White House as preparations are underway to construct a $300 million ballroom in its place amid a government shutdown. MSNBC exclusively obtained a letter from Senate Democrats demanding answers from the National Park Service and the Trust for the National Mall over the way Trump went about the project and whether private and corporate donors funding the ballroom could be engaging in quid pro quo arrangements. Comcast Corporation, the parent company of NBC Universal, was included on a list of top donors. And the White House says the project is nothing out of the ordinary.
Can any president do such a thing to the White House grounds? There have been many presidents in the past who have made their mark on this beautiful White House complex.
So it sounds like the answer is yes, he can tear down whatever he wants. And then secondly, I mean...
That's not what we're saying. That's a legal opinion that's been held for many years.
A Virginia couple is challenging all that, filing a lawsuit this week asking a federal judge to halt any demolition and construction efforts until a public review is completed. Part of their efforts may be too late because look at this aerial footage. It shows the social center of the People's House and the neighboring Jacqueline Kennedy Garden. They've already been bulldozed away and reduced to rubble. Joining me now, Rebecca Miller, Executive Director of the D.C. Preservation League. It is a nonprofit that advocates for protecting historic sites in Washington. Welcome, Rebecca. So just what was your reaction when you first saw the East Wing coming down?
I mean, I think it's safe to say that we were very surprised to see that. We'd obviously been told previously that there had been a plan for the White House, but nothing had been filed with the National Capital Planning Commission, which is what gives public input into that, including places like my organization, the D.C. Preservation League.
Right. And again, the president himself had said, we're not going to touch the building. It will be an extension of. Well, that's obviously not the case. But the National Trust for Historic Preservation has called for this project to be paused, saying it is concerned that the 90,000 square foot ballroom will overwhelm the actual White House itself, which is 55,000 square feet. So talk about the scale of this project and how it changes the appearance of the White House, and just kind of talk about the cultural significance here.
Absolutely. Yes, it's a very large intrusion into the White House grounds. There is actually a ballroom down the street, the Mellon Auditorium, which actually holds 1,000 people standing up or 650 people sitting down. That's owned by the federal government. So it's not necessarily true that there's not another option for having, say, a state dinner or something like that on the White House grounds. Previously they'd had tents and things like that, obviously. So this now is a change to the White House, something that's been in there for 83 years, and there hasn't been any public input like there would be with other federal projects here in Washington.
Well, yeah, because they bypass the traditional process for major federal renovation projects in Washington. But in your analysis, should the demolition or the construction have been exempt from any review?
Absolutely not. Typically, when we review projects in Washington, demolition is informed by what is proposed for the new construction. So just taking a backhoe to the East Wing doesn't give the opportunity to save anything. So in other federal projects, we look to minimize and mitigate the impact on a historic resource, which is why we don't demo first and build later. Mm-hmm. We have an informed plan of demolition based on whatever the new construction that is approved will be.
And the administration says construction plans will soon be sent to the National Capital Planning Commission. That is an agency that's currently chaired by Trump's White House staff secretary. Is that adequate oversight?
I would say no. I would say that there's no one person or one agency that should have the ability to say what happens to these public buildings. A lot of the negotiations on what happened with the legislation of the National Historic Preservation Act or other executive orders took place more than 50 years ago. And I don't think it was ever contemplated what would happen in this particular instance. But no one person should be able to say that they can tear down a wing of the White House without input from others or professionals or experts or the public, for that matter.
So, Rebecca, the administration claims this is about modernization. Others have said hosting large state dinners and party tents on the White House lawn because the East Wing was so small just isn't a real good look for the U.S. Do they have a point?
Well, tearing down a historic resource is never the ideal task way forward. Like I mentioned, there is a ballroom right down the street. We also have had in the past many presidents that had their state dinners at other locations. The Hinckley Hilton, for one. So the Washington Hilton just up the street. So, I mean, there are ballrooms in the city that can hold more people. And I understand the opportunity and wanting to have a programmatic resource on site. But that's where these types of reviews come in, where the professionals can help whoever's trying to build something minimize and mitigate the impact to the historic resource. And that's really what we're looking for.
So there is a YouGov poll out which finds 53% of Americans disagree with the demolition of the East Wing, and your organization urges these people to now reach out to their elected officials. But what changes should they be demanding? Because realistically, at this point, what can be done? I mean, Jackie Kennedy's East Wing garden is gone.
It is gone. And I think if there was to be any litigation moving forward or any change from a policy perspective, it would be that there is, again, just not one person or one administration that can make this kind of fundamental change to a resource that is recognized around the world. And so we would want that policy to be changed so that any kind of demolition option and new construction would be combined together and reviewed for public input.
Okay, Rebecca Miller, thank you very much. Appreciate the conversation and insights.
What we've just witnessed in this report is not just a debate over architecture or aesthetics. It's a battle over legacy, accountability, and the limits of presidential power. The demolition of the East Wing of the White House, a structure that has stood for generations as part of America's living history, raises profound questions about who gets to decide what remains and what disappears from the nation's most iconic residence. In today's segment, we heard about the sudden teardown, the lack of transparency, and the concerns from preservationists and legal experts who say this move bypassed the very public processes designed to protect historic landmarks, a project worth $300 million unfolding during a government shutdown, now sits at the intersection of politics, privilege, and preservation. For some, the justification of modernisation might sound reasonable. After all, the White House must evolve to meet the needs of a modern presidency. But for others, it's a painful reminder that no piece of history is safe when decisions are made behind closed doors. The image of bulldozers levelling the Jacqueline Kennedy Garden, a symbol of grace and legacy, is jarring. It's more than just construction, it's erasure. The debate extends beyond bricks and marble. It's about trust, whether the people who call the White House the people's house still have a voice in what happens there. The fact that oversight boards and preservation commissions were reportedly bypassed only deepens public scepticism. Can a single administration redefine the physical and cultural face of the nation's home without consultation or accountability? And then there's the matter of influence. With reports of corporate donors tied to the funding of this massive ballroom, the spectre of quid pro quo politics looms large. When private interests help shape public heritage, we have to ask who truly benefits: the American people or those buying their way into history? Beyond the politics, there's an emotional weight to this story. The East Wing has stood through wars, crises, and countless state moments. It has welcomed world leaders, comforted grieving families, and served as a quiet witness to democracy's evolution. Its loss isn't just structural, it's symbolic. Now, Americans are being asked to reckon with what this means. Does modernisation justify the destruction of heritage? Should a president, any president, have unchecked authority over national landmarks? Or should there be laws that ensure collective stewardship of places that belong in spirit to every citizen? As this controversy unfolds, one thing is certain. The White House is more than a seat of power. It's a mirror reflecting who we are and what we value. When its walls change, so too does the story we tell the world about our respect for history, transparency, and the public good. So what do you think? Should presidents have the power to remake the nation's most historic home in their own image? Or should the people have a say before history is rewritten with a wrecking ball? If you found this report insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more real, fact-based news commentary.